With fantasy football draft season already among us, here are 4 players that are catching my attention as we get ready for the season. The first one is Brian Robinson out of the Washington Commanders. I think it's well documented how terrible the Antonio Gibson offseason has been, and it's all been around the terrible ball security that he's had. If you don't know already, in 2021, Antonio Gibson actually led the league with 6 fumbles, and that continues to be an issue for this coaching staff, and that's really opened the door for Brian Robinson, the 3rd-round rookie out of Alabama. I love Brian Robinson just because of his sheer size. The dude is 6'2", weighs 220 pounds, and just check out the dude's combine numbers. He had a speed score that put him in the 85th percentile, same with his 40-yard dash, and the thing is, we're seeing also reports that he's been running with the first team all throughout the offseason, and quite frankly, he's also looked really well in the preseason. On top of all this, the reason this makes it really intriguing for me to want to lean on Brian Robinson a little bit more over Antonio Gibson is the current value that you can get him at. But before we go into the value, you also can see here that Washington is going to have the 4th easiest scheduled for running backs. So not only will the matchups be there, but then you also look at the ADP price that he's currently going at. Right now, Brian Robinson is currently going as running back 44. Overall, he's going 144th, and that's around other running backs that don't have any RB1 or upside, like Nyheim Hines or Raheem Mostert. The price is currently just right for Brian Robinson, especially with the draft season already among us. Be sure to keep your eyes on him so that way he can find a roster spot on your teams. And now that you secured Brian Robinson, you're going to want to pay attention to this next running back, and this is running back Dameon Pierce out of the Houston Texans. According to Pro Football Focus, Dameon Pierce actually was the highest graded running back from the FBS with a grade of 92. On top of that, the coaching staff as well as his offensive line have been raving about how well he's doing in the offseason. One of my favorite quotes comes from head coach Lovie Smith. He says, "We've seen everything you need to see from a good running back," and he of course is referencing Dameon Pierce. Here's another impressive statistic for Pierce coming out of college. It said here, Pierce ranks 2nd among running backs with a 37% rate of his runs leading to either a first down or a touchdown. And then you couple all of this with the fact that Houston is going to be a terrible offense. They have no vertical threat outside of just Brandon Cooks, and this will make it easy for quarterback Davis Mills to want to look for Pierce in those short outlet throws. And one more thing with Dameon Pierce, his ADP is at a pretty good spot, but his ADP is slowly rising. If you look at this popularity index, he's been on the rise for the last couple weeks. Currently, he's sitting at running back 41. Overall, you can get him at 118th, which I think is a phenomenal value pick in redraft leagues, and he's a must draft in dynasty as well as keeper league. Before I go into these last 2 players, if you're getting value, be sure to hit that like button. So now that you secured 2 of these running backs, you're now going to want to shift your attention to the wide receiver position, and that is where you select and draft George Pickens out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We understand that this wide receiver room is already loaded with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, but there's been a lot of reports about how impressive George Pickens has been in the offseason. There also have been reports that Pickens has been a favorite target for quarterbacks Mason Rudolph as well as potential starter Mitchell Trubisky. What makes Pickens really valuable is his elite footwork coupled with his ability to catch the contested ball really well. And it was hard to not get excited after watching his first preseason game. He had 3 receptions on 5 targets for 43 yards and had a very impressive looking 26-yard touchdown. His large frame at 6'3" and 200+ pounds makes him a physical nightmare for other DBs, and you couple this all with the fact that he's going at a pretty amazing discount. Currently, he's going at wide receiver 55. Overall, he's going 138th off the board. And just like Pierce, his popularity is also increasing. If you are in a redraft league, consider Pickens as a late stash, and he's a must draft in keeper as well as dynasty leagues. Another player that has been getting my attention as the fantasy draft season approaches has been tight end Kmet from the Chicago Bears. So for me, I understand that the Chicago Bears are not going to be an impressive offense, but when we analyze what Kmet did in 2021 from an opportunity standpoint, there's some things to be excited about. Just check all this out. He was 8th in targets. He was 10th in target rate at 23.5. He also was 6th in snap share rate at 83.7%. He also led the Chicago Bears in red zone target. I want to focus on that last one because Justin Fields in his rookie season was 7th in red zone accuracy. I think all these advanced statistics coupled with the fact that I believe that Justin Fields is going to make a stride in his second season, you're going to see a lot of great things opening up for Cole Kmet. I know that offensive line is terrible, and outside of Darnell Mooney, there really isn't anything fantasy-wise to get you excited with the Chicago Bears offense, but things are going to open up for Cole Kmet, being that he can be a security blanket for quarterback Justin Fields. And one more thing I want to share, no tight end finished with more fantasy points under expectation at negative 36.6 than Cole Kmet in 2021. And one last thing I want to share, Cole Kmet's strength of schedule is amazing. So amazing that the Chicago Bears are going to have the easiest schedule from a tight end matchup standpoint. And you know what? It gets even better because I didn't even tell you his current ADP. Currently, he's going as a tight end 13. Overall, he's going 123rd, which means you can focus on getting depth at your running back as well as wide receiver positions. And if you want to punt on tight end, Cole Kmet is the perfect candidate for you, and he has elite upside going into 2022. All right, guys, hopefully you got value out of this video. If you did, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and check out these other videos where I go over different strategies to get you ready for the fantasy football draft season. Best of luck to you in your fantasy drafts, and as always, keep it 100.